between the hours of 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. on a brand new program called Streams of Consciousness, where we seek to raise the level of consciousness one conversation at a time. So, tell a friend to tell a friend that consciousness is back on the airwaves. And remember, stay positive, stay conscious, stay tuned. Good evening. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Streams of Consciousness. Today, Monday, May 29th for 2023. Of course, my name is Hassan Robinson, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you tonight. Tonight, we have another wonderful episode. We have in studio with us a lovely guest, the Dominique Queen, actually. We'll allow her the pleasure to introduce herself formally and properly. Tonight we're going to be having a lovely discussion. And without no further ado, of course, you know I usually start off the program with a prayer, good vibration. But I'm going to give you a quick rundown as to what to expect for tonight's program. Of course, my guest is Miss Dilma Bastien. She's a CEO and founder of Generation Y. She's a spirituality and consciousness advocate, amongst many other things. We'll be speaking about youth empowerment, creating opportunities for our youth, celebrating our young people, as youth are the future, and some of the current concerns surrounding our educational system, you know, and of course Generation Y as well, amongst many other things. Last week we spoke on resonancy and political consciousness. This first quarter we'll be speaking on water and its connection to our consciousness as well as our environment and its relationship to the laws of the universe. Without any further introductions, I'm about to let Miss Bastien introduce herself and tell the rest of the nation, of course, pleasant good evening, Miss Dilma Bastien. Hi, how are you?
To be here. Thank you for inviting me to Streams of Consciousness. It's a pleasure to be here. As you said, my name is Dilma Bastien, CEO of Generation Y Dominica, and I'm happy to be a guest this evening.
All right, it's an absolute pleasure to have you as well. All right, so we're gonna let the big. I'm gonna actually set up the program with a righteous prayer. Of course, I like to invite the spirit of the ultimate consciousness, Yahweh Himself. So I'm just gonna say, merciful Father Yahweh, allow us tonight here to resonate with your frequency, your consciousness, your vibrational energies. Let your words, your song, your vibrations, your love, your heart, your everything be resonated with us here tonight as we continue to promote consciousness and spirituality. Of course, good vibrations only. In your wonderful name I pray. Hallelujah. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So, Miss Bastien, all right, we're going to allow you to introduce yourself formally. Who are you, what it is that you do, and what you want to talk about here tonight.
All right. Well, again, thank you for inviting me, and a special good evening to all your listeners here and abroad. I know that the airwaves of DBS Radio go not only locally and regionally, but internationally. And again, thank you for inviting me. My name is Dilma Bastien, and I'm the CEO of Generation Y Dominica. We are a youth online social movement, active since 2013, and it's actually great to be back in DBS Studio, because I remember that when we launched Generation Y Dominica, DBS Studios, radio studio, was the first studios to give us the opportunity to talk about Generation Y, Dominica. So it actually feels great to be back home, I should say.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here as well. Of course, this is Dominica's broadcasting station, and of course, it's home to all who have something positive to say. All right, so I'm just going to put some music to play real quick. I'm going to go into the educational segment. Of course, the first 10 minutes of this program is dedicated to conscious awareness as we try to elevate our spiritual vocabulary. So we're going to do this real quick, and we'll be right back with you guys. Not sure why it's not playing. Okay, I'm just trying to get the music to play real quick here and raise up the levels. Yes. All right. So on tonight's education segment, we're going to be speaking about water and its resonancy with us, and how we are connected consciously with water, and how water and consciousness are in tune. As you know, everything has a vibrational frequency. Everything operates on vibration, as we've established. And we've also spoke on resonancy. Resonancy meaning that things vibrate at a particular frequency. Some vibrate to a rate that can also influence other things to vibrate in a similar pattern, called resonancy. And water is one element that retains such energy and memory, and we are 70% water. So what we say to ourselves, what we expose ourselves to, what we take in both as physical food, conscious food in itself, it vibrates at a particular frequency. And water, as you know, Dominica, as many people know it as River Nica to a few, Dominica is one that is blessed with a lot of water, a lot of history, and water retains memory. So if what I'm saying is actual truth, and that water in itself has its own vibrational consciousness, then therefore Dominica, I would say, is a very enlightened place in the sense of how it resonates and vibrates with the universal consciousness. Now, where does water consciousness come into synchronicity? How does it all connect together? Well, there are 12 main laws of the universe, according to those of us who are into the universal resonancy, what guides us to do the things we do and act the way we act. So these 12 laws are the laws of oneness, the law of vibration, the law of attraction, the law of compensation, the law of gender, the law of cause and effect, the law of relativity, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy, the law of polarity, the law of rhythm, the law of correspondence, and the law of inspired action. So tonight we're going to be tackling the law of correspondence. Correspondence is your life. If your life appears to be out of order, or if you're content, if you're okay with where your life is, it is a reflection of what's happening internally. So what you say to yourself, what you vibrate with on the internal will manifest or resonate on the external. Hence how we have Miss Bastien here with us, who will be speaking about the importance of youth development and the different aspects. She'll be going deeper into that and how that resonates. But to give you a quick synopsis, as we are running out of the first segment, trying to keep it simple, the law of oneness is everything is connected. It is the first law and is the foundational law of the universe. This is activated when compassion is exercised and the fact that we are all one, we are all united. The law of vibration, as you're aware of, is a constant energy that everything is in motion and it vibrates at a particular frequency. The law of attraction is whatever frequency you vibrate on, you attract that. The law of compensation is whatever you sow, you will reap. The law of gender relates to masculine and feminine energy, balance. The law of cause and effect is that all actions, there's an equal reaction. The law of relativity it boils down to your perception, how you see things, how you perceive life is how your life will eventually be. The law of perpetual transmutation, perpetual meaning constant, transmutation means to change, so the constant change. Your actions are preceded by your thoughts and your actions. And the law of polarity is opposites attract, negative and positive, not meaning good or bad, just opposite. And the law of rhythm, music is life. The law of rhythm, it promotes fluidity. The law of correspondence is what we're speaking about. And of course, the law of inspired action is sort of like the law of attraction, but it attracts what inspires you, what motivates you, what gets you going. So tonight, I hope this inspires you and motivates you to be the best version of yourself. So yes, with that being said, we're going to allow Miss Bastien now to get her to do her thing, to bring that balance, that law of correspondence, that law of positive energy, and do your thing. The table is yours, Queen.
Aslan, I just want to say that I really appreciate segment 1.
Thank
You really, this is a great show. I think we are at a time when raising the consciousness of the island and the planet is absolutely necessary. And this talk about oneness has me very excited. So I must say and commend you and let you know that I am already having a great time here at DBS Studios.
Thank you. All right. So you said you're going to be speaking about a few things. How do you first want to tackle it? Talking about celebrating our young people, of course. Of course, we always talk about the negatives, how they, are not acting aligned with what we'd like to see, but they're actually doing pretty good, I believe,
Some of us are. So I would say, again, I just want to tell everybody that I represent for Generation Y Dominica. We are youth online social platform. We have a website, www.generationydominica.org, as well as our main Facebook page, Generation Y Dominica, and other social media handles. So we're here for the youth. We represent the youth. We represent positivity. And as I said back in 2013 on my debut at DBS Radio, when I introduced Generation Y Dominica, I said, and I will say again today in 2023, that we are the voice of the younger generation. And yeah, we're just here to touch base and talk about the youth and points that we want to talk about. And again, so happy for the invite. So the first thing I want to talk about is celebrating our youth and youth empowerment. And you're welcome to join in with me on this.
Of course. It's a conversation,
Oh, yes. So we're raising the vibration one conversation at a time. So, youth empowerment, I think it's very important for us to empower our young people. Not just those who are overachievers. I believe every young person needs to be empowered. I think at times there are times when we tend to celebrate. Of course, we have someone maybe going for the Olympics and to represent the island or represent the island X, Y, and Z. And of course, we celebrate them. They're on social media. They make the news networks and so on. But I believe that every young person deserves to be empowered. And it really starts in the household,
Right.
I'm of this belief that children or young people should not have to go out into the world seeking validation. I believe that's a very, very dangerous thing.
What you mean by seeking validation, like not being aware of who they are or needing society to basically say, okay, you are who you say you are, that type of thing?
When I say seeking validation, I would say if you were raised in a household where you knew that you were loved, your parents didn't need to have everything to provide for you. I remember going to school sometimes and we didn't have those sparkly gel pens, we didn't have everything that other kids have.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I made a lot of friends that way. Hey, can you borrow me your sparkly gel pens? But just the love,
Right.
Having love at home is so very, very, very important. Having your parents tell you, how important it is for a young person with a young mind to hear from someone who they consider their hero, which is obviously our first heroes are our parents, telling us, you can do anything you want to do.
Right.
You can be everything that you want to be. So that's what I mean when I say going out there to seek validation. It's very important that this type of nurturing is done at the home rather than when you go into young adulthood and you get into society and you face all kind of so many things going on, and then you're here trying so many things, trying to find your value, I should say, from external, when really you should believe in yourself and have that type of value built in from the moment you are a young person. So that's what I mean. So it's important for us to individually empower our youth, and then all the individual actions will become one, and here it is, we have a better society.
Indeed. And you're speaking from experience because you're a queen, a mother as well.
Oh yes. I'm a mom of a 7-year-old now.
Yes.
Oh boy, being a parent. I always say, I remember, every we go through our teenage years, and each of us, I guess, have the small rebellion phases, and me becoming a mom, I'm like, woo, how did my mother do it? So I believe in. And what do you think about what I'm saying? Do you agree or?
Yeah, of course. The home and the mom, the mother is the queen, I believe, and the father is the king. And we need to raise our younger generation to not only know that they are from royalty, from genetic birth, but also spiritually. And the ultimate creator, the ultimate validation that they will need is the creator himself, whom I call Yahweh the Messiah. I'm sure you understand as well. And I think through our actions, seeing that the youth, they learn, especially at that young age, through copying what they see and repeating what they hear, it would be rather easy for them to feel like self-validated if constantly they are heard, or if constantly they hear their parents saying, good job, continue doing that, continue to be yourself. And equally so, once they are out of alignment with what is considered to be beneficial for them, not just the parents or what the parents want them to have, but beneficial for them as their growth, they say, hey, if you continue to act this way, you'll continue to receive certain things. Not a parent, but I'm an older brother of a few.
Same thing.
And it feels like, sometimes you want to give good advice, but also, you want to practice the advice that you give. And it's not necessarily easy being persons who, wants to give the good advice and wants to be a conscious person. But it's met with equal amount of resistance, but it's also met with equal amount of reward according to what you put in. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being a parent as well. If that's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but I feel when I see about empowering the young people, I fully believe that everybody is born with the capability to harness certain talents and to present certain talents.
Right.
And we need to be in tune with the younger people to understand where they fit in and what they can contribute. One person could be great at academics, or maybe you're great at being a media host,
Right.
I'm probably great at being an inspirational speaker. Another person may not have those talents, but you would find that maybe people who are more in the limelight of things would more get the celebration versus another person who has a different type of talent. So we really need to sit down and look at people and really celebrate, get them to harness what is it that you're bringing to the planet. I'm so glad we're on a show about consciousness. What is it that you're contributing to the world? Something I read yesterday in a book that was written all the way back in 1910, it said, the greatest gift that one person can give to God and humanity is to be his or her highest self.
Facts.
So I'm of the firm belief of that, and I believe that, all this empowerment really starts in the household.
All right, indeed. And now we're taking it from the household into, the platforms of Dominica's broadcasting station, social media as well. And so let's get a little bit deeper. So we understand the importance of, talking well to your parents. What if you're in a household and you didn't have your parents? You were raised up by your grandparents, or you were not even raised up by your grandparents. You were just raised up by friends, or, you never know what one's situation is. How do you then inspire the youth to see their importance and the contributions that they may have to offer the world, regardless of the negativities that may be out there? How would you then approach a situation like that?
That's a good question. Thanks for putting me on the spot. No problem. Here's my advice, and I hope there are lots of young people listening. I'm very, 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 very in tune with reality. And let's face it, a lot of us have not had the pie in the sky upbringing. You know, even sometimes when there are two parents in the household, it's not been a perfect situation. Or sometimes we have a one parent household where one parent is under so much type of strain to keep the household going, you know, the struggle, and they're not able to be their full self. So there are situations where the household will not provide the type of support that you need. And my advice in my more than 30 years experience of life is each person has to seek their creator. Your creator is always present.
Right.
Okay? Well, whatever name you want to use, whatever version of spirituality you have, I believe this is, I know mine, you know, and I'm confident in, you know, in Father Yahweh being the supreme being, you know, but whatever is your cup of tea, I believe that everybody should embrace their spiritual self. Mind, body, and soul must be in harmony for a person to be as whole as they can possibly be. We cannot neglect the soul. We cannot neglect the body. We cannot neglect the mind. Okay? So, there are times when, even as an adult, you may feel cornered or alone or stressed or overwhelmed. We live in a world of so much trials every day. Cost of living is going up. There's world wars going on right now. There's a lot of pressure out there. But my advice is seek your creator and know your creator, and that provides you in your darkest moments, in your moments where there's no one. You will always find that comfort. You will find that encouragement. You'll find that the universe opens doors for you that you never expect. You know, so that's my advice. When there's no one, there's always someone present.
Indeed. And with that, that's a beautiful segment to segue into the next aspect of it. Usually around this time here, I usually spend about 3 to 4 minutes playing some conscious music, just to catch the vibrational frequency on, just to lighten up the mood. Afterwards, we go into a 30-second to a 1-minute meditation, where I'd love for you to join me, just rapid meditation. Then we're going to go deeper into one aspect of our society that we feel if there's more consciousness, that could be increased. So this is Streams of Consciousness. You're tuned in with Dilma Bastien, of course, and myself, Hassan Robinson, and we're just going to let it rock. Streams of Consciousness. Tonight, of course, we're focusing on the youth, some of the opportunities that are available to them, ways we can inspire them, of course, celebrating them in a righteous manner. You know, as we know, they are the future, they are the present. We're going to go into Generation Y as well. And what does that mean, as we are now in Gen Z's era? I have with me Miss Dilma Bastien, who's a consciousness spirituality advocate, CEO of Gen Y magazine. She'll give you more information about some of the stuff she has dropping. Tonight, the main focus was on water and its relation to our consciousness, and how water and consciousness are in tune, how the vibrational frequencies are stored in memory. And that memory in itself is not just in our physical self, but in our spiritual self. The ancients used to refer to the universe as the waters of life, the waters of noon. Some still refer to the stars as the Milky Way, the galaxies. Always has to do with fluidity. So I'm just rocking instrumentals tonight, as instrumentals resonate in a particular vibration without any intention. The thoughts attributed to the music playing is all your thoughts. So if you think positive, be positive, you act positive, then positive things will return. It's now 8:26. I'm gonna ask my guests now to spend 30 seconds with me as we just do a quick 30-second meditation. Alright, so you ready, D?
Oh, yes.
Alright, so what I usually do is I count to 3, like 1, 2, 3. I take a deep breath in. Then I go 3, 2, 1, take a deep breath out. Then I go 1, 2, 3, take a deep breath in. 3, 2, 1, deep breath out twice. And then we're just going to observe our breath. So, let's get it done. So, 1, 2, 3, deep breath in. 3, 2, 1, deep breath out. 1, 2, 3, in. 3, 2, 1, out. Now we're just going to observe the breath. And just like that, we've had a meditation session.
Oh, wow.
All right. So, D, it is now 8:27. And I just want to get your feedback. If there was one area of society, if there was more consciousness, or one area of society you'd like to see more consciousness, what area would that be?
Okay, if I have to choose one area of society where there was more consciousness, I would say I would raise the consciousness of our world leaders.
Okay.
And these are the guys that make the laws, the bylaws, the in-between laws, everything. And with raised consciousness, I believe there's a greater connection to the people because we are all servants of the people. And that's my answer.
Nice. So raise the consciousness of our leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider you to be a leader.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, man. Of course, my universal answer is always communication. You know, communication means resonating at a same frequency. Anything out of that communication will be dissonance. So I believe once you're able to talk to yourself, tell yourself good things, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, your loved ones, your parents, your children, just try and bring that good vibration out there. And of course, you know, this platform is just me trying to communicate on a higher vibrational frequency, share that good vibration. All right, so we're gonna go into your segment now. Let's talk about Generation Y. What is Generation Y? What does it mean, and how do you tie that into, you know, the magazines and some of the stuff that you have doing?
Thanks for asking again. All right, so Generation Y is not actually a name that I created. It's actually a thing. You know, there are different groups based on when you were born, periods when you were born. And studies have segmented the generations: Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z, and so on. With us, a Generation Y refers to persons who were born between 1980 and 1994, also commonly called millennials.
Okay.
Well, some of us are in our, and the good thing about Generation Y is it's actually a little bit of a wider spectrum. We have Generation Y starting with people who are now in their late 20s, all the way to people who are in their 40s.
Okay.
Right? So it's actually, we just have this great spectrum, this great cohort of people. You were born between 1980 to 1994. You're Generation Y and you are a millennial.
Nice. So, millennials, what is so special about being a millennial? Okay, you're born in a particular type. Does it mean that you're born in some supernatural conscious power, or is it just, okay, you're born here, it's like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock?
Well, I don't want to say that any one person is more special than anybody else. I believe everybody is special. I believe everybody has this super consciousness that you just have to tap in.
Right.
But the thing about Generation Y that I like to boast about is that Generation Y is actually that generation, if you really realize it, that saw the world's transformation into
Internet,
the technology age.
Yeah.
You know, we saw the world transform into the technology age. I've seen no TV to black and white TV to TVs with little antennas to now flat screen TV.
Yeah.
I see no computers to the really big thick computers. You know, yeah, I'm jumping ahead. Sorry, I seen typewriters first. You know, so we're actually that one generation, the only generation that has witnessed the world make a huge transition. So we're actually the generation that has seen. I remember the first when I revamped the page, our social media page. I was saying, did you know that our generation is one of the only generations who has seen more than one world pandemics? You know, so many things. We've seen a lot, and yeah, I was really inspired to do this social media group, this online page, this touching base with the generations, just to raise that awareness that, hey guys, we are here. We've seen a lot. We have a lot to offer the world.
Awesomeness. Well, yes, I guess as a member of Generation Y, I'll say Y for Yahweh. You know, I feel like it is very important that we actually share our knowledge, our stories. Some may not be able to do it as I am doing it on the radio. Some may do it for music. Some may do it for writing books. Some may do it for their artistic expression. Some may do it by just being the best version of themselves. Some may do it by just being good parents, you know. But looking at the current trend in which our global society is going, from politics to health to information to, you know, just name it. Of course, we are seeing a trend where I would not want to say that we are making a step backwards, but we are so intellectual and so cognitive in terms of our information, but yet still we are very disconnected with our higher selves, our natural selves, nature in itself. And I find all the information that we are accumulating kind of brings us into this level of confusion, where we have people saying that they are males trapped in a female body, and females are trapped in a male body, and we are seeing, you know, guns in schools. We are seeing a high level of alcoholism from youth at a very young age. All of these things are not by happenstance, you know. It's by what we assimilate, you know, both consciously for our foods, subconsciously for the vibrations of the Wi-Fi, the TVs, all of these things there. So how can we as Gen Y, Generation Y people, use our awareness of being pure before the contamination? How do we then apply that consciousness to help change our society, if you have any ideas?
Maybe I have one or two. Well, in my opinion, and again, I speak with the generations all the time, and we dialogue about stuff like this. So I would say it's not just my opinion, but a shared opinion. I think we need to see things for what they are. A lot of people are, I would say, not in tune with what things are. Technology is a tool. The internet is a tool. These things are tools, all right? They're not supposed to control our lives. We're not supposed to pick up our cell phone every time we hear a ping, you know?
Yeah.
We're higher than that. We're not lab rats, you know? We don't have to respond to pings and emails and messages every 2 seconds. These things are tools. These things are here to help us with build a better society, build a stronger society. And I think that we just need to recognize that. You know, we don't make them a part of us. We use them as tools. Just like when we were hunter-gatherers, we used spears, you know? Right. We lit fires, you know? But we still stayed connected with nature and with everything on the planet. You know, and it is a major concern, especially as we're facing things like global warming and so on. And that's why it's important to speak to the generations. You know, these things are all our responsibility. It's not up to one person to care about the planet, to care about the animals, to care about, no, this is our responsibility, because as you said earlier, you know, everything is connected. Yeah. You know, a few years ago, I would have never imagined that a degrading bee population would have any effect on the earth. You're busy, you're studying in school for X amount of years, so much pressure, so much exam. You're not thinking about the bee population, you know, disappearing in 6 years. But, you know, science has revealed, and all this is available on the internet, that certain groups of animals, even something that we don't even think about, like the bees, are start disappearing and getting low in numbers on the planet. It can affect so much, you know, so...
Yeah, indeed. And not just the bees, of course, the birds, you know, as well. There are a lot of fishes that are going extinct. There are a lot of animals that are already extinct. And we tend to be sort of like that Avatar movie. You know, in Avatar, you know, the human beings are the bad guys and the creatures who come to destroy nature. And we, you know, sit in our living rooms and in the cinemas and say, that's a cool movie, but it's really a reaction to the realities that we are facing. The second Avatar, I looked at it recently, spoke about water and the water tribes and how we are connected, you know, universally for all different aspects. And somehow there's trees above land, trees underwater, and different types of people who adapt in different ways, different vibes, different energies. And I think what makes it so special, this universe and this planet that we live on, is the interconnectivity. You know, once one species or population feel like they are dominant, they tend to tip the scale. And we as human beings have kind of polluted the airspace, the water space, the just name the type of space we've consumed and polluted it. Right now, space wars are going on for like satellite. If you were to look at Earth from a satellite perspective, you will see there's a number of pollution, you know, runaway satellite dishes will probably battery run out, and all of these things are going on. Now they're trying to think about excavating the moons and all. You just name it, we've thought about it, and we're actually trying it. So then how do you then look at this reality that we're living in for not a pessimistic eyes and not an overly optimistic or naive setting, but the reality of the time that we are in? And the only times we have is now. You know, only consciousness is happening now. So what do we do now to help elevate that level of consciousness and bring back that level of good vibrations? And I think it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with me, you know, to just vibe on those levels and to show that, you know, this generation actually think about stuff that is much more than just the latest jam. Because sometimes you see people go to the jam and they see one, they party every weekend, not because they have the money to do so, but they're just trying to find an escape. They're trying to find a way out of, you know, the present situation and where they are mentally. So how do we then allow people to be comfortable with who they are on the inside?
Oh, that's a question? How do we become comfortable with who we are on the inside? It starts by bringing some silence to all the noise. You need to stop going to the parties. You need to stop hanging out with the friends that you know are bad for you. The friends, when you tell them you're going to make this remarkable change in your life, they're like, get out of here. There are friends like that. You need to dump those. You need the silence. It's in the silence, and some people fear the silence, I would say, because it allows us to face ourselves and to see things for what it is, but that's nothing to fear. One can only know their self if you hear what's going on inside of you. A lot of people are, again, as you said, that certain things are used as a form of escapism. You don't want to party every weekend. You certainly don't have the cash for it, not with the cost of living these days. You know, you don't want to spend $200 on an outfit and then realize you don't have groceries the next day. There are some people who live like that. And then some of us think, you know, it's important not to judge, but some of us think that's crazy. How could you not have groceries today? I saw you out last night. You know, but it really is a form of releasing your frustrations and escapism. And I always say it's more important to go to the root and the source of the problem than to judge a person by their behavior. I always need the full story. I never engage in conversations where I don't have the full story. You know? Yeah. So for a person to know their self, it begins with silence. And maybe those 3 deep breaths in and 3 deep breaths out that we did earlier today. You know? Put yourself in some silence and find out what's really going on.
Indeed. All right, Dee, we're going to take a quick break, put some music to play, and let's catch a vibe. And yes, the time is now 8:41 p.m. How time flies, eh? And if you're now tuning in or viewing, this is Streams of Consciousness, and in studio with me, we have the lovely Dominique Queen, the Dilma Bastien, who's a CEO and founder of Generation Y, spirituality and consciousness advocate with many hats, of course. She does a lot more than that. We spoke about youth empowerment, celebrating our young people, creating opportunities for the youth. We're going to go a little bit more into that. How do we create those opportunities? Of course, we know youth are the future, and some of the current concerns we spoke about. Some of it is like managing time, knowing yourself, being inspired, how you navigate through this environment that we're living in presently. And we're about to talk about her magazine as well that's coming on. We spoke on political consciousness last week. This first quarter, we spoke on water and its connection to our consciousness, as well as our environment and its relationship to the laws of the universe. Of course, the laws of the universe are that law of oneness, law of vibration, law of attraction, law of compensation, law of gender, law of cause and effect, law of relativity, law of perpetual transmutation of energy, simply meaning this continuing moving, perpetual meaning to a long period of time, transmutation means the changing, so the continuous changing, law of polarity, law of rhythm, law of correspondence, how things relate to each other, and the law of inspired action, what inspires you to move in terms of what gets you going or what might not get you going. So we're going to talk about the youth and education. Education is not just systematic going to school, sitting down in the classroom type of education, but education as in holistic education. How can we use education to help elevate the consciousness of our youth? So I'll let Miss Bastien do the honors and delve into this one a little bit, and I'll follow your lead, Dominique Queen. Yes.
All right, thank you. So we just want to touch very lightly while we're sadly going to wrap up soon about education. And as I said, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm the voice of the generations. We dialogue all the time. And I just want to raise a small concern. The young people, a lot of us have felt that, a lot of us, as I said, we're different age range, late 20s, 30s, early 40s. A lot of us has felt that some of the stuff that we learn in the traditional educational system, we barely use it. We're barely able to use it to navigate through what we consider real life out there. And the world, as we see right now, is moving at a remarkable pace. Information. What can you really consider information? Every day you discover something that you've known all your life is no longer known to be a fact. The other day, my daughter told me, "Mom, Pluto is not a planet." And I was sure, I was ready to go down to the grave saying that Pluto is a planet. I've learned it all my life. Pluto is a planet.
It's not.
And doing a bit of research, I realized recent finding, hello, Pluto is no longer a planet,
Yep.
So what do you know if you learn every day? So, speaking about education, I mean, two of the major concerns on the grounds for the young people is one of the major concerns is the fact that there isn't much room, and I'm speaking locally, there isn't much more room anymore for persons to learn skills. Right now, I don't know if you remember this, Hassan, when they had the junior secondary program, where if you were not too academically powerful, then hey, you could go into this program and learn to use your hands, learn to use your skills, and that program has been gone for quite some time. And I would say that if we really look at the statistics, if we really measure it, we could see that there has been a very vast increase in violence and violent activities over the past couple of years. And I could probably say that's probably one of the contributing factors. We have young men out there who really don't care about books, but are so great with their hands, and they have no opportunity, no academic, space to develop those skills anymore. And then you're left with a bunch of young people with lots of energy and nothing to do, So that's one of the concerns as well. And I did speak with a lot of people, consult with a lot of people on that hey, we need our skills program back, man. We need that back, Not all of us gonna get the grade ones in CXC, you know what I mean?
It's true,
but
it's true.
having people who use their hands, skilled workers are very essential to society. You know, if we have more guys that are trained construction, people trained in construction, trained in road building roads and so on, then we wouldn't have to, you know, there's this complaint going on socially sometimes that, hey, that we're outsourcing a lot of our contractor works and so on. You know, we haven't really invested in our skills program in quite some time, so we could see how things like that can happen. So educational wise, that's one of the major concerns. Another one being that some of our subjects in the schools are outdated and are not ready for the world ahead.
All right. Well, that's a lot to assimilate and is actual a taste of reality, in that there are a lot of not just men out there are a lot of women who can use their hands as well. You know, academics is usually attributed to female, and then the hand work is attributed to the male. It's not necessarily true, although for physical structure, men are, you know, made genetically to do more of the physical work, but that does not mean that the women themselves are not able to, you know, to apply their hands in certain things. And I feel like that is very important as well. And right now, as you can see, the way that the rest of the world is going, society is going globally, yes, there's a lot of emphasis on information science and, you know, all of these things here, technical stuff, in terms of computers, in terms of, you know, handwork and whatever. However, there should be a merger between the two: information, technology, science, and the application of it. Because right now, you know, technology has increased to the point where China themselves, they are having their students study for jobs that are not yet even in market. So if, take for example, the next 2 years, there's a high need for, I'm just going out on a whim here, a high need for people who can train the water to be programmed or store information inside of water, for example. China already have people in schools studying how to put programs into water. So then when the demand is actually met, then demand is actually manifesting in our society, where people saying, yo, we should do this, China would be ahead of that. Just using that hypothetical stance, but that is actually what's going on. So the same here is for Dominica, in that there are a lot of people who are naturally creative in all sorts of ways, who can use their hands in all sorts of ways, and it's not just limited to the academics. They might not be as strong in academics, but they might be strong in certain areas, but the balance should be met, whereby you can say, hey, listen, I want to do this, I want to do that, not just for job purposes, but also for just my conscious growth as well. So it is about 8:49. Let's talk about your magazine as we try to, you know, wrap it up.
Okay. All right. So actually, Generation Y Dominica, we do a lot. We again, we have our website, generationYdominica.org, and our Facebook page, Generation Y Dominica. And we not only post encouraging quotes and do special speeches and stuff like that. We have a blog. I want to say shout out to Andrea Louis, who's also on the blogging team, you know, writing some inspirational articles. Most recent one is called Making Your Salary Work for You in 2023. You guys going to want to read that. Okay. You know? So we also do an online magazine, periodic magazine, and we're back, and we have a new one called Gear Up, which is dropping in June 30th, 2023, at the end of the month. It's free. It's going to be shared. It's free for everybody to download and view. You're going to see some of your celebrated local Generation Y people in there. We got musicians. We got producers. We're all about supporting the arts, encouraging the arts, raising consciousness, and just good vibes. So you guys going to look out for that. The magazine is called Gear Up.
Gear Up. All right. Looking forward to that for sure. Yeah, man. So there you go. You know, Miss Bastien, of course, is not only applying that consciousness through practical application, but also trying to create a platform whereby, you know, you can actually be inspired, you know, to see what's going on and see how you yourself can make that contribution, and you can reach out as well.
Well, Hassan, I believe that's so important, you know, because there's so much negativity going on around. And as I said, people need to understand that social media and all these platforms that we have at our fingertips now that we couldn't even imagine just 2 decades ago. Could you imagine 2 decades ago calling somebody for free on WhatsApp? I couldn't. I couldn't.
Yo, I remember the snake game in on the black.
Boy, I'm telling you, snake game, Tetris. I couldn't. I could not imagine. Just 2 decades ago, I could not imagine that I would be able to call somebody for free on WhatsApp. Sorry, Magic Jack. Yeah. You know, some people went out of business for that.
Yeah, man.
But we need to understand that these things are tools, and rather than just spreading negativity, or sometimes we have the most hurtful comments, under the news stories and stuff like that. We spread so much negativity. We can use these things to elevate each other, to encourage each other, to raise a vibration, to just go on your page and drop it out there. Hey, who's having a bad Monday? Let's talk. The other day I posted, let's talk about AI, artificial intelligence. It's coming. Let's talk. And then there were comments. Everybody just drop comments. Let's raise the vibration. We use the tools to raise the vibration, not bring each other down.
Okay. 4 minutes. AI. Let's go.
No. I cannot in 4 minutes.
Yeah, man. But AI for me is ancestral intelligence. Not artificial. I think AI is ancestral intelligence. You know what I mean? And Generation Y is Generation Yahweh. So in terms of ancestral intelligence, what I mean by that is that our forefathers and them died. Persons used to get their eyes plucked out for trying to read and learn. People used to get their hands chopped off for trying to eat some food for the children who were born in slavery. People used to get their legs chopped off for trying to run away from the slave masters. They were diagnosed with some mental disorder for wanting to be out of slavery. A set of things that was going on, not just just recently. And of course, Friday was Africa Day, Liberation Day. Shout out to all of the Dominic Kings, Dominic Queens, the Afri Kings and Afri Queens out there. Doesn't matter who you are, the conscious kings and queens out there. Always remember where you come from and be present of where you are today, as what you do today will affect you tomorrow. And tomorrow is only today waiting to happen now. So it's just a vibes, and I just appreciate the vibration, and I'm here with the Dominic Queen Dilma herself. It's been an absolute pleasure. We still have some time. I don't want to end the program too early. So if there's anything you want to, any...
Sure, of course. I actually just really love what you just said. I really love what you just said.
Thank you.
And, it's very important that, and I've said this the other day, sometimes a lot of people in the older generations, Gen X and so on, would say, these young people are hopeless. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They quote unquote wild.
Yeah.
And not all of us, but I see how that comment, sometimes I'll be honest, I see how that comment can be made. Because when you think about the struggle, even I would just use I'll just niche it down and use an example of women. When I think about women's rights and how far we've come as women, and how we couldn't even drive cars, women couldn't have jobs, and we've come so far. And I'm like, man, we had people that fought for this.
Yes.
We had people that fought for this. And what are we doing? We outside there posting ourselves on Instagram in the hottest outfit with it. So it's very important that you said that, ancestral intelligence. You got to know where you come from. You got to know what they fought for you, and we as a generation now to just maximize all the blood, sweat and tears that was put in for us to have this level of freedom that we have today. We really need to embrace that and make the best of it.
Well said, Queen. Well said. So yes, the time is now 8:55 p.m. and you've just listened to Streams of Consciousness. In tonight's episode, I'm just going to give you a rundown segment of what we'll discuss here tonight. My guest is Dilma Bastien, CEO and founder of Generation Y, a spirituality and consciousness advocate. We spoke on youth empowerment, celebrating our young people, creating opportunities for them, some of the challenges that they may face, as well as the opportunities. We also spoke about her new magazine dropping this month, June 30th. What is the name again?
It's Gear Up.
Gear Up. Okay. And we spoke on also water consciousness, its effect on our consciousness as well as our environment, its relationship with the laws of the universe. There are 12 laws. You can always look them up. It's not only 12 laws, but these are the 12 main principal laws that a lot of cultures resonate with, that still hold true today. And some of these, of course, are laws of oneness, vibration, attraction, gender, just to name a few. But tonight we spoke on correspondence. Correspondence is basically showing that if your life is out of harmony or in harmony, it's all a balance of what you put inside internally. And water in itself holds information. It vibrates in a particular frequency. It holds patterns. It holds that vibe. So what you tell yourself, what you feed to yourself, or what you expose yourself to, it kind of forms your perception of things. It kind of helps you correspond with your reality. It could be financial, economic, spiritual, just name it. Just be mindful of what you assimilate, what you put into your system, and what you give out there. So we're just trying to give that good vibes. Of course, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm just going to say a closing prayer, so as we end this program here, just allow the Creator to, do His thing, So, merciful Father Yahweh, thank you for another wonderful program, another great episode of Streams of Consciousness, as I hope that these words, this information here helped raise the level of consciousness and vibration to any Dominic King or Dominic Queen or any king or queen out there into this universe and beyond, of course, vibing at that good vibes. In your wonderful name I pray, hallelujah, amen.
Amen.